Welcome back to The Deep Dive, the show where we take your burning questions, add a stack of fascinating sources, and then distill it all into something truly insightful and maybe even transformative. Have you ever felt that subtle pull, that inkling that there's, more to existence than meets the eye? A desire to understand something profound, perhaps, beyond the everyday routines, maybe even a sense of a hidden truth waiting to be uncovered. That's precisely the territory we're exploring today. We're embarking on a deep dive into the profound world of esoteric science, often called occultism. But let's be very clear from the start. We're not talking about fortune-telling or anything superstitious or spooky here. Instead, we're approaching it as a systematic, rigorous path to understanding hidden knowledge and critically unlocking deeper human potential. Our primary source for this deep dive is a really foundational work from 1955, The Training and Work of an Initiate by Dion Fortune. Consider this your unique shortcut to understanding a complex and, let's face it, often misunderstood field.
Indeed, and it's crucial to understand that occult, in this context, simply means hidden. We're discussing knowledge that was historically kept secret, often for very practical reasons, actually, but which is now becoming increasingly accessible to those who seek it out. Our mission today is to truly unpack what it means to be an initiate, not as someone with, supernatural powers necessarily, but as an individual who consciously engages with these deeper levels of reality, and also to meticulously trace the disciplined, often quite arduous path of training such a journey entails.
And trust me, the scope of what we're about to explore is vast. We'll be looking at everything from the nature of subtle powers within us to the practical daily training of both mind and body. We'll delve into the rich historical roots of Western esoteric traditions and discover how they connect to ancient wisdom, maybe even to some really profound interpretations of Christianity. Get ready for some truly surprising insights and perhaps some profound implications for your own life's journey, even if you never intend to pursue this path yourself. Okay, let's unpack this. So to lay the groundwork, let's begin with some fundamental questions about esoteric science. What exactly is it? And perhaps more importantly, who is it truly for? Is it just for a select few, or is there something here for all of us?
Right. At its heart, esoteric science is spiritual science. Historically, as you mentioned, it's been called occult because it was hidden, often reserved for initiates and mystery schools, But that's changing, definitely changing, and much of this knowledge is now far more accessible. Its core value, as laid out by Dion Fortune, is that it offers a really comprehensive philosophy of life that profoundly illuminates our deepest problems. It reveals unexpected significance in our daily lives, making the mundane suddenly appear in a whole new light, kind of. The key insight here is that it fundamentally changes your values by showing your intimate individual relationship to the cosmic whole. Think about it. Things we might have considered supremely important, like fleeting material possessions or social status, could turn out to be pretty insignificant in the grand scheme. Conversely, things we've always dismissed as trivial, like seemingly random thoughts or just daily interactions, might in fact be the true strategic centers of our lives, subtly shaping our destiny. It's a complete reevaluation of reality, really.
That's a powerful idea, that our entire perception of what matters could be reshaped.
Wow. Now, the source also mentions powers in our minds. Are these powers some rare, almost supernatural ability that only a select few possess? Something, I don't know, out of a comic book? Or is it something more grounded in human experience?
Not in the least, and this is a common yet critical misconception. These powers are not in the least rare or supernatural. In fact, we are using them every single day without even realizing it. The difference is that if these natural mental faculties, things like intuition, empathy, visualization, if they are consciously developed and directed, they will yield remarkable results. And here's the crucial point for you, the listener. Unless these powers are deliberately perverted to evil, which is a conscious choice, mind you, not an inherent outcome, they're productive of nothing but good. Dion Fortune emphasizes that even if you can only dedicate a few minutes a day to their development, the cumulative effects over time are said to be truly amazing.
A few minutes a day.
Exactly. It's about conscious direction of innate human abilities, not about acquiring something entirely new or spooky.
That's a game changer for anyone who feels they don't have time for deep study or who might be intimidated by the idea of hidden knowledge. A few minutes a day sounds accessible. But then there's the talk of the path to adepthood, which sounds like a lifelong commitment, perhaps even across multiple lives. Is this science only for those who can dedicate their entire existence to its pursuit? What about those who can't?
It's true that not everybody is ready for initiation into the, let's say, the highest degrees of this path. The tradition itself suggests it takes 3 lives of steadfast effort to find the path in its fully conscious form. However, That should absolutely not discourage anyone, really. Even if we don't consider this life as one of achievement in the highest esoteric sense, we can certainly make it one of preparation. And on the inner planes, where consciousness operates beyond our usual linear time, you might achieve more than you thought possible. Even a first and second life of preparation yields significant, tangible results in this lifetime. The specific benefits include finding a new, profound interest in life, an unfailing spring of hope and inspiration, and a surprising ability to straighten out some of life's lesser tangles. Above all, you'll be lifted into a serener air, clear of the daily pettiness and aimlessness that can often overwhelm us. You'll gain a key to understanding the profound problems of existence. So, the key insight here is that there's something for everybody. Each one can take just as much as he needs and make use of it. It's likened to returning again and again with our pitcher to a well of life. You're not obliged to take it all at once or even to drain the well.
That's incredibly reassuring. So this isn't all or nothing proposition, but a journey one can embark on at any level of commitment. That's great. Now let's delve into a core belief of esoteric science. The widespread historical notion that some knowledge was deliberately guarded and communicated only to a chosen few. What was the content of this secret knowledge, and how was it transmitted?
Right. This ancient tradition holds that secret doctrines primarily concern the inner nature of man and the universe. They deal with aspects of reality not observable by our five physical senses, but which require higher senses or, expanded consciousness to be brought into play. A significant portion of this secret teaching was, historically, dedicated to training students to use these higher senses for observation. Think of it like training a student of physical sciences in laboratory techniques or the use of a microscope, but for perceiving subtler dimensions. And just as knowledge of natural laws confers power in the physical world, if you understand physics, you can build a bridge, right?
Right.
Knowledge of these esoteric laws was believed to confer power in the subtler worlds. The key insight is that understanding fundamental principles confers power, whether those principles are physical or metaphysical.
That makes perfect sense. If you understand the underlying mechanics of something, you gain a certain level of control or influence over it.
Yeah.
But if this knowledge confers such power, why was it guarded so carefully for so long? What was the rationale behind such intense secrecy?
Well, the traditional reason for caution was that this power, if abused, could cause serious harm, not just to the individual, but potentially to larger systems. Dion Fortune emphasizes that this power is derived from the great author of the universe, and those who held it were considered trustees and not owners.
Trustees, not owners.
Exactly. They had no inherent right to use it for personal gain or selfish ends. There are many traditions of swift and heavy punishment meted out, either by fellow initiates or by higher unseen powers, for its misuse. So the secrecy was less about hoarding knowledge and more about extreme ethical responsibility and preventing spiritual harm.
So it was a matter of extreme ethical responsibility, almost like guarding a dangerous but potent technology. But if it was guarded so carefully, how did one actually find this secret knowledge? It wasn't advertised on billboards, was it?
Exactly. You wouldn't find it in a classified ad. Not likely. The traditional answer is that if a person, by his character and his life, rendered himself a worthy recipient, sooner or later he was brought in contact with those who were competent to instruct him. This principle applies even to a subconscious wish for deeper understanding. Life by life, the necessary training is given, often subtly, until that wish works through into conscious articulation and the individual deliberately takes up the quest for the evidence of things not seen.
Wow.
It's almost as if the universe recognizes readiness,
So it's almost like the universe conspires to bring the right knowledge to the right person when they're truly ready. That's quite something. But for a solitary student, before they might find a master or formal instruction, what kind of preliminary training can they undertake? What steps can you, the listener, take right now to prepare yourself?
The most crucial groundwork is what Dion Fortune calls mental culture. Much time is wasted later in formal training on teaching what should have been learned earlier. The key principle here is that intuition alone isn't enough, even though it can offer glorious glimpses of higher truths. Unless the intellect is fitted to cooperate, these spiritual perceptions can seldom be made of practical avail for the solution of world problems. A mystic, for instance, might have ecstatic moments and reach great spiritual heights, but they are seldom able to bring back water from the wells of life for those he has left behind.
They can't share it effectively.
Right. It is only when each vehicle of consciousness in man is in perfect correlation, meaning all aspects of your mind, emotions, and physical being work together harmoniously, that the current of inspiration can flow through you and manifest effectively in the physical world.
That's a powerful call to action for personal development, to correlate vehicles of consciousness, especially the mental one. Why is this correlation so important for serving others, for being a link between the higher and lower worlds?
Because it enables individuals to act as links between that which is above and their fellow men who as yet stand upon a lower step of evolution. You're urged to remember how much it would have meant to you when you stood on that self-same step had such clear help been available. No effort after development is wasted. The passage of many feet, as the source notes, widens the path for the multitude who will follow.
So your personal growth isn't just for you.
Exactly. It clears the way for others.
Let's dive a little deeper into these vehicles of consciousness. The source talks about them as separate tools, almost like different levels of operation within a person. Can you elaborate on that?
Sure. Think of them as tools that need to be sharpened and brought into alignment. The higher the level upon which you can accustom yourself to function, the better your start on this path. Few truly enlightened people identify themselves solely with their physical bodies, right? They see themselves as more than just flesh and bone. Many operate primarily from their emotions. Some can think freely and coherently on concrete subjects, dealing with facts and tangible ideas. But only a few can reason in abstract terms, moving beyond specific examples to universal principles. And only one or two in a generation can experience the intuitions of the spiritual plane in such a way as to think in terms of inceptive and unmanifest thought. That is, thought before it takes on any concrete form, pure archetypal ideas.
Oh, that's rare.
It's about progressively broadening your mental scope, step by step.
That brings to mind the contrast between Eastern practices like yoga asceticism, which often involve extreme physical control, and the Western approaches to training. How does the Western tradition view the control and refinement of the physical body in this esoteric context?
Well, in the West, the body isn't seen as an abject slave to be brutally mortified or neglected, but rather as a voluntary collaborator with the spirit.
A collaborator.
Yeah, the goal is not suppression, but integration and elevation. The key insight here is that if a person's desires are consciously turned towards a higher level, they will automatically lift him there. As a great initiate once said, as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. Furthermore, a crucial point often overlooked is that the emotions must be allowed to flow freely without conflict or distortion through their natural channels before they can be elevated or sublimated. The source is very clear. You cannot sublimate a pathology.
Right, you can't build on shaky foundations.
Exactly. This means you can't build higher spiritual functions on a foundation of emotional repression, unresolved psychological issues, or just general disorder. You must first have a healthy, functioning emotional life before you can refine it for spiritual purposes.
That's a crucial distinction, addressing the emotional foundation first.
Okay. Now, moving to the culture of the mind, specifically concrete and abstract thought. How does one cultivate abstract thinking? It seems so elusive to many of us. It can feel that way. To a mind accustomed only to concrete forms, to specific objects and events, abstract thought often appears meaningless at first. Its terms don't evoke corresponding images or experiences readily. A ready way to do this, Dion Fortune suggests, is the study of algebra, because it forces the mind to think of proportions apart from things, thereby habituating it to ideas and relationships instead of just images.
Algebra. Interesting.
Yeah, from algebra, one can then advance to philosophy and metaphysics. Herbert Spencer's First Principles is specifically suggested as a good introductory text for that. The core idea is training your mind to work with concepts that aren't tied to physical forms.
And what about cultivating concrete thinking and general knowledge? How does that fit into esoteric preparation, especially if the goal is to access higher abstract truths?
Well, the larger the sphere of your knowledge, the more numerous your points of contact with the cosmos. When a student seeks to acquire knowledge directly from what's called the cosmic mind, a universal reservoir of information, it's surprisingly similar to a patient undergoing psychoanalysis, but with attention directed outward. You start with a clear idea in your own mind and follow the chain of associated ideas until you reach the root complex in the cosmic consciousness.
Okay.
Therefore, a sound general knowledge of natural science, history, mathematics, and philosophy is absolutely essential. You don't need thorough, specialist knowledge of every single subject, but rather their outlines, fundamental principles, and methods. This allows you to see special, esoteric knowledge in relation to the cosmic scheme, understanding it as a living plant in the garden, rather than a dried specimen in the herbarium.
Seeing the connection.
Exactly. This brings us to the profound concept of the unity of knowledge, how everything is interconnected.
What's the practical benefit of this broad general knowledge for making contact with the cosmic mind. Why is it so important to have a good foundation across diverse fields?
Well, it prevents you from missing priceless information or being bewildered by an unfamiliar terminology when you gain access to a massive miscellaneous ideas from the cosmic mind. Think of it like this. Just as university professors aren't willing to ground students in basic schoolroom elements, right?
Yeah, they expect you to know the basics.
Exactly. The higher reaches of esoteric science expect a student to come as completely equipped as exoteric or conventional studies can make them. Without that broad understanding, you might see profound truths, but lack the framework to recognize or interpret them properly.
Fascinating. So the journey begins long before one consciously sets foot on the path, in a way. Now let's shift our focus to the journey itself, starting with the very first impulse. Who is drawn to question what lies behind the world as they see it? What sparks this profound quest?
The primary driver is what Dion Fortune calls divine discontent, a restlessness, a deep inner urge that compels individuals to seek beyond the skyline where the strange roads go down. This often goes hand in hand with a growing sense of fellowship with all things in humanity, a feeling of interconnectedness. The source identifies two types of individuals who, despite their different reactions to the process of evolution, fundamentally share a common motive. One type seeks to improve evolution through science and conscious action, to hasten the slow processes of nature. The other seeks to lessen the suffering that nature's plan entails through compassion and healing.
Two different approaches.
But both, crucially, share the profound motivation to seek knowledge in order that they may more efficiently serve their fellow men. It's always about service, not personal gain.
That's a powerful shared mode of service to humanity. What are some other commonalities found in the lives of these workers for humanity that might give us a hint of this deeper calling?
You'll notice several shared traits, yeah. They often have, from early childhood, a profound sense of a destined work they are meant to do, and once they find it, they never falter in their devotion, regardless of obstacles. Whether agnostic or devout believer, they consistently report a sense of contact with something higher than themselves that uses them as instruments for service. Despite often being frail of body, they possess an almost superhuman power of endurance, which they invariably ascribe to an external, unseen source.
Interesting.
They view life from a standpoint of universal sympathy and an innate understanding that goes beyond conventional thought. They are no longer content with the slow tide of natural evolution, but have commenced to swim, dimly sensing a higher goal. And from afar, an unseen power seems to cooperate with their efforts, guiding them in doubt and supporting them in difficulties. It's quite remarkable when you look at biographies.
This power sounds pivotal. What exactly is it in esoteric terms? And how does one connect with it?
Esoteric tradition affirms that this contact is a form of initiation. There are essentially two kinds: physical and non-physical, or spiritual. Physical initiation grants admission to the study of esoteric wisdom and fellowship with other seekers, enabling shared knowledge and practices within a tradition, like joining a school.
Okay.
Spiritual initiation, on the other hand, is a deeper, more profound inner experience where the soul directly contacts higher powers and is admitted to the fellowship of great souls on the inner planes of existence. While one can sometimes precede the other, the opportunity for both is always present, creating a synergy between external learning and internal awakening.
How does an individual come to step out of the march of evolution in this way to develop such an abnormal development of character, as the source puts it? Sounds a bit intense.
It does, doesn't it? The traditional esoteric explanation involves the concept of reincarnation and conscious cooperation with divine evolution. Evolution itself isn't seen as a singular linear path. It's preceded and succeeded by other evolutionary cycles. Crucially, evolution isn't a blind mechanical process. It's essentially a mental process, a coming into manifestation, the embodying in a concrete form of an idea in the divine mind.
An idea manifesting.
Exactly. Humans can aid in the work by becoming conscious of and expressing these divine ideas. This is what it means to be consciously cooperating with God, to align your will and actions with the divine plan. Spiritual initiation occurs when we become conscious of the divine within us and thereby contact the divine without us. It's an inner recognition that unlocks outer connection.
So it's about inner awakening leading to outer connection. How does one get ripe for such a profound spiritual experience? Is it a sudden thing, a bolt from the blue, or more gradual?
It's rarely sudden in its full realization, usually. It's about acquiring a particular type of character, which, according to the doctrine of reincarnation, is gained as the immortal soul takes many bodies, acquiring experience and character growth in each. This is a fundamental difference in viewpoint from conventional thought. Esoteric science thinks in terms of evolution over many lives, where growth is cumulative, while the ordinary person often thinks of a single incarnation.
Right, the one-life perspective.
Yeah. For the esotericist, death is simply the end of a phase, a sunset, not a cataclysm or ultimate end. Each life builds upon the last.
And this accumulated experience leads to special tuition from what the source calls elder intelligences. Can you tell us more about them and how this special training occurs?
These great intelligences, described as products of earlier evolutions, are said to identify individuals who show exceptional educability and capacity to become future co-workers in the larger cosmic plan. This special tuition isn't for personal benefit or, self-aggrandizement, but to leaven the inert mass of evolving life, thereby accelerating universal evolution. The individual's mind is made aware of the esoteric theory of evolution, so knowing the plan, they can consciously cooperate. This training often occurs over several incarnations before conscious realization truly dawns in a single lifetime. Records of past lives often show them to be adventurous, harder lives with greater strength. Often the journey begins in a menial capacity at temples or mystery schools, encountering ritual, the outer form first, which stimulates deeper curiosity.
It sounds like a long, arduous process over many lifetimes. How does this past training manifest in the present life? Are there clues that someone has been on this path before?
It manifests through what Dion Fortune calls recapitulation. You arrive at the mental and spiritual state where you left off in a previous life, picking up threads of understanding. This can create foregone conclusions or reasonless prejudices that feel deep-seated and unshakable, even without current logical data to support them, a sense of knowing something intrinsically.
Like déjà vu almost, but deeper.
Sort of, yeah. Information on esoteric subjects tends to stick in the memory as if it were endowed with some peculiar fascination. It feels less like learning anew and more like revising because you're recalling dormant subconscious knowledge that's already within you. This tapping of the subconscious may sometimes be mistaken for external aid, but the source clarifies that external aid is also available through apparent chance, leading to occult information or training that seems to miraculously appear at the right time.
This brings us to the pivotal concept itself. Initiation. What is it in its most profound sense if it's not just a ritual or ceremony?
Initiation, as used in this deep context, is fundamentally the illumination of the soul by the inner light. Specifically, an initiate is one in whom the higher self, the individuality, has coalesced with the personality and actually entered into incarnation in the physical body.
Wow.
It means one whose higher self it is that looks out at us through his eyes, with the personality becoming more of a vehicle, reduced to habit complexes, leaving the higher self free to function directly. This great initiation is invariably gone through out of the body, meaning it's an experience on inner spiritual planes, and no ritual confers it, though ritual may prepare consciousness for it. Crucially, it happens in full consciousness and the memory is retained. The answer to whether one can be initiated without knowing it is an emphatic no.
Okay, so you definitely know it happened.
Absolutely. While a master might accept a pupil without immediate awareness due to undeveloped psychic faculties, the sigil of the master is stamped on the aura. A subtle, energetic mark. An initiate shines with his own light, not the borrowed light of his master. Think of the moon personality reflecting the sun's light, higher self. An initiate becomes a sun in their own right.
That's a powerful image. Shining with one's own light, a direct manifestation of the higher self. But manifesting the higher self sounds like an immense undertaking. What is the challenge, and what does it demand from the individual?
It requires an immense amount of preparation due to the vast difference between the individuality and the personality. Without this preparation, the personality would be split asunder, unable to contain the higher energies like a badly fitting garment ripping apart. Yeah. The personality must reorientate its standpoint to align completely with the higher self. This demands singleness of purpose that balks at no sacrifice. The master's sayings, "Sell all that thou hast and follow me, and let the dead bury their dead, follow thou me," are described as hard sayings, but experience proves them to be true. While one can achieve divine union via the winding path of evolution without formal initiation, you cannot then claim ancient secrets have been lost if you are unwilling to pay the price of absolute dedication.
So it demands everything.
The key insight here is that true spiritual power demands absolute alignment and a willingness to transcend personal attachments.
The idea of sacrifice of the senses often makes people recoil, fearing a life bereft of joy or pleasure. What does that truly mean in this context? Is it about asceticism and deprivation?
It's not about being bereft of all things in a punishing way, no. It's described as a reinvestment in something of far greater value. It's likened to the merchant in the gospel story who sold all he had to purchase the great pearl. He gained something incomparably more valuable, didn't he?
Right, he didn't lose, he gained massively.
Exactly. There's certainly a period of struggle as the threads binding you to the desires of the lower senses are consciously dissolved, but as soon as an appreciable clearance has been made, the higher light begins to dawn. The core task for initiation is turning away from the mirror of form consciousness and look straight at reality, which is life, not form. It's a shift in perception from the fleeting to the eternal. And this dawning of inner light is usually gradual. A sudden burst of illumination is rare and can actually be blinding and disabling, as St. Paul found on the Damascus Road.
Okay.
For most, the inner light dawns gently and gradually, with cloud shadows obscuring it, as old desires may surge up again, but with less and less power over time.
Once this freedom from the bondage of the senses is achieved, the Source speaks of two distinct paths for the initiate, the mystic path and the occult path. How are these distinguished, and why are both important?
They have distinctly different aims, reflecting different temperaments, really. The mystic path aims for liberation, for escaping from the bondage of the flesh, never to return. Mystics often don't emphasize reincarnation as their focus is on transcendence. They engage in mortification to abreact the world's karma, rendering their personality negative to be a channel for cosmic forces, embodying the attitude, "Be still and know that I am God."
Being a channel.
Yes, primarily working in the realm of the higher self, seeking direct union with the divine. The occult path, in contrast, designs to return to matter, bearing with him the fruits of his labors, and therefore teaches reincarnation as a means of continued service. Occultists indulge only in sufficient mortification to bring the flesh into subjection, seeing the body not as an abject slave, but a powerful and spirited horse to be guided.
A powerful horse, I like that.
Yeah. Their aim is to build a personality through which the higher self can function without let or hindrance in the world. Occultists deal directly with forms, using their concrete minds to shape those forms into channels for the cosmic forces. They bring the higher self into manifestation on the planes of form. While both paths desire realization or direct experience of the divine, the occultist endeavors to bring about its reflection on the plane of form. Christ, for example, is presented as embodying both aspects. An occultist, turning water to wine, and a mystic, but critically used his powers in the service of his mission.
This is about temperament and purpose.
Exactly. The key insight is that spiritual growth isn't a single path. It's about aligning your unique temperament with the right method for conscious co-creation and service.
It's interesting that Dion Fortune notes most liberated souls choose the mystic path and don't return. Why do occultists choose to return to the world of form, to the challenges of matter?
They are motivated solely by a desire to lift the burden of the world's confusion, not by personal desires or attachments to the senses. It's a profound act of self-sacrifice and service, really. The Source emphasizes interdependence, stating, "No function save by duality." The mystic represents one pole of the Christ force and the occultist the other. The occultist is positive upon the planes for form and negative upon the planes of force, which means they often need to invoke forces to aid their work, employing various types of ritual magic to bring higher energies into material manifestation.
And what about the truest development for an initiate? Does this involve some apparent violence to nature in their training, especially given these two distinct temperaments?
Absolutely. The truest development, and the one aimed for by the inner light tradition, is achieved through a just balance of the positive and negative forces of the soul held in equilibrium by the will. This means that souls naturally inclined to mysticism are given occult training in the lesser mysteries, and vice versa.
Training against type.
Exactly. This apparent violence to nature training in a way that goes against one's natural inclination prevents imbalance. A mystic developed solely on mystical lines can acquire a painful lack of balance, where forces break bounds of form and diffuse into a bog of emotional spirituality, becoming marshland unproductive for human service. An occultist, if left to indulge their love for form and intellectualization, would become walled up inside his forms and lose living contacts with the living essence of things.
They become too rigid.
Precisely. By being trained in the opposite discipline, the occultist, for example, acquires the power to make contacts independently of the use of formulae and ritual magic. The crucial principle, as the source states, is that a chain is no stronger than its weakest link. Neither the mystic nor the occultist can manifest more than they polarize within their own natures. They need both poles for full functionality.
This all sounds very theoretical, requiring significant dedication and specialized training. But for many, daily life and its obligations, family, work, home, are paramount. Let's talk about what the Source calls the path of the hearth fire. How does one balance these mundane duties with the call to a deeper spiritual path?
This is a profoundly practical teaching, actually. When a soul spontaneously answers to the call for deeper knowledge, it's often a latent memory from past lives resurfacing. And there's usually something in the karma that has to be worked out through bonds of obligations in this life. The path of the hearth fire is presented as true a way of initiation as any of the disciplines imposed by the occult fraternities, and it's neither quicker nor slower.
Really? Just as valuable?
Yes. It's likened to a builder who spends long years gathering and fashioning materials section by section, with no visible wall rising, and then in a few hours, the perfectly matched sections are bolted together into a finished structure. The patient bearing of burdens in daily life is itself a form of discipline and a genuine initiation. The key insight is that your daily life is your spiritual path, if approached with consciousness.
So life itself teaches the lessons. How does experience alone bring realization in the context of these daily duties and karmic obligations?
The Source urges us to accept our karma as the first initiation. This involves striving for mastery of ourselves and our circumstances to achieve serenity under all conditions. The saying, "what cannot be cured must be endured," becomes a core lesson. While this implies acceptance, it's not passivity. As Knights of God, it's our duty to resist injustice and enforce the law of harmony where possible. You should neither sit supinely down under remediable evil, nor keep up a perpetual whine about the irremediable.
So act where you can, accept where you must.
Exactly. Either accept willingly and cheerfully, or reject courageously and determinedly. The choice of how you respond determines your growth.
How does living daily life this way, according to cosmic principles, actually lead to freedom and spiritual advancement?
By living daily life according to cosmic principles, you work out whatever karma has been given you for this incarnation and win your freedom. The Source discusses several reasons souls might be bound to mundane duties. Perhaps failing past tests in a previous life, like a student having to resit elementary exams despite brilliant work at a higher level. Or sometimes, souls who have advanced far turn back at the call of human love, forging new karmic ties, perhaps out of pure pity for a beloved, slower progressing soul, choosing to stay with them.
Wow, choosing to stay back.
Yeah. For the hearth fire path, home duties must be worked as a ritual, dominated by love and beauty. Services should be rendered with sympathy and joy, making humble details beautiful through perfect cleanliness and order, eliminating the superfluous. A crucial practice is to put a chair at the fireside and lay a place at table for the unseen guest, and live our life and do our work in the light of that invisible presence.
That's a beautiful image.
Isn't it? The true proof of karma overcome is serenity of heart, along with dutiful performance. It's about keeping your homes ready for the wayfaring Christ, swept, garnished, and filled with a spirit of peace, goodwill, and above all, serenity. This transforms mundane chores into sacred acts.
That's a truly profound way to view daily life and the home. Moving on, what defines the initiate's ideal character type? How can one recognize an initiate if they don't wear a special uniform?
Right, no uniform. The character type is remarkably consistent, though, regardless of intellectual variations or background. The first thing you notice is a simplicity of life and a serenity of demeanor. An initiate is entirely unperturbed amid catastrophe and horror, possessing the qualities of a traveling in wild lands, always arriving right side up and smiling.
Always landing on their feet, huh?
Pretty much. They are equally at ease in humble and imposing surroundings. This poise results from their rigorous discipline, which leads to control of emotion and desirelessness. They love simplicity, cleanliness, and quiet. If they can't obtain these, they walls himself up in a shell of his own thoughts. While they emit an aura of power, they are withdrawn and remote, avoiding conspicuous eccentricities like a long black cloak or flamboyant hat. Those, the Source stresses, are the marks of a charlatan seeking attention.
The showmanship isn't the real deal.
Generally not. The adept is serene, sensitive but controlled, definitely not a bundle of nerves. Occultism doesn't cause ill health, but it reveals latent weaknesses, which must then be corrected. Dion Fortune's experience shows that advanced students, especially practitioners, often possess unusual bodily strength and wide culture and are skillful in the use of their hands being important in occult work as instruments of will. They also have an amazing range of general information due to a trained mind and the fact that occultism is illuminated from unexpected quarters. They exhibit remarkable physical powers, influencing bodily faculties, needing reduced drug doses, taking general anesthesia well, minimum surgical shock, and amazing recuperative powers.
Wow, quite resilient.
Very. Despite the devotion they inspire in pupils, they often seem cold and forbidding to the outer world due to their aloofness. Their attitude and thoughts are so alien to average humanity that they often take refuge in silence. Importantly, love is not his outstanding characteristic in a conventional sense. Their attitude is likened to a breeder focused on species perfection, rather than a pet owner, driven by a higher impersonal love for humanity's evolution.
And personal love.
Yeah. They travels too fast for the average humanity, but for those who delight in great adventure, they are a chosen companion and beloved friend.
That's a very detailed and striking portrait of the ideal character. Now, for the daily life upon the path, is it about following a written code of conduct, like a set of commandments, or something more personal?
No, it's not a written code, but a dedication to an ideal, involving intense self-discipline. Students learn underlying cosmic laws that govern all things. There are no fixed rules on application. Each person applies them uniquely to their own circumstances. Guidance is only offered when asked, because more value that a soul should learn than that it should do the right thing.
Learning over just following rules.
Exactly. Soul growth takes many incarnations, so no rigid objective standard is set for a single life. The principle is taught, the ideal upheld, and you apply it in your unique circumstances. As the saying goes, faithful over few things, then entrusted with many. The first principle is the absolute rule of law. Nothing is fortuitous. Whatever happens is the result of a cause. An initiate never grumbles or repines, accepting calmly, acknowledging the justice of karma. This serene and cheerful acceptance is their hallmark.
So this implies a profoundly different attitude towards life's problems, especially one accepts the concept of karma and reincarnation. How does this acceptance manifest practically?
Indeed. It's a profoundly different attitude. There's calm acceptance, but not passivity or resignation. That's key. The initiate knows the power of concentrated thought. Their method isn't direct attack to change external conditions, but to bring about changes in their own consciousness, knowing that his own temperament, which is the real instrument of karma.
Changing yourself changes your karma.
In a sense, yes. By harmonizing their reactions to events, they work out karma, even in the present life. They are master of his fate, because while they cannot determine birth conditions or external circumstances, they can determine their reaction to them. It's like a ship tacking against a headwind. The worse the conditions and the stronger the wind, the swifter his progress. Challenges become accelerators.
And this leads to a revaluing of everything in their lives. What does that revaluation look like?
Precisely. The initiate always revaluing things according to cosmic principles. Their real life is perceived as being in the higher self, the eternal individuality, and the personality is just a temporary phase or vehicle. Their real existence is never immediately involved in the personality's ups and downs. All experiences simply feed the higher self, contributing to its evolution.
A detached perspective almost.
Detached but engaged, this perspective allows them to dare to take risks with his mundane prospects that most men wouldn't, because their deeper identity isn't threatened. Their life has significance, a richness, and a freedom that others lack. They live gloriously because he lives dangerously. It's like Columbus staking his success on the theory that the earth was round. If wrong, he made ducks and drakes of his life. If right, he will find the Indies.
High stakes, high reward.
Right. Death for the initiate is not the end of the world, but the Northwest Passage. They go to the King of Terrors as to a crowning, a new beginning.
That's a powerful and adventurous perspective on life and death. Wow. Now let's shift to the theoretical framework that underpins these supernormal sciences, starting with the term Illuminism. What does it mean, and how does it help us classify this vast field?
Right, getting organized. When classifying such a vast subject, which ranges from basic psychism to ceremonial magic, and from mystic divine union to pacts with non-human entities, a clear schematic approach is essential. Drawing a hard and fast line between esoteric and natural science is challenging, as the unseen interpenetrates the material plane as intimately as water interpenetrates the strata of the earth.
It's not a clear boundary.
Not at all. The closest distinction is that occult science begins where natural science ends. But the boundary isn't fixed, it's more like the tide line. The key distinction is method. Natural science starts with phenomena and deduces principles, meaning experiment precedes knowledge. Esoteric science, conversely, starts with principles and looks for phenomena, meaning knowledge precedes experiment.
Opposite approaches.
Completely. The one laboriously correlates units. The other explores the ramifications of primary universal principles.
So a different starting point and method entirely. What's the best terminology to encompass all these aspects, given the problems with terms like occultism or mysticism alone?
Yeah, the terminology is tricky. The field has a parlous condition as regards nomenclature, meaning the terms are often confusing or incomplete. Occultism often excludes the mystic, mysticism excludes the occultist, and spiritualism is too specific to mediumship. Plus, there's a mix of Sanskrit, Greek, Kabbalistic, and medieval alchemy jargon. The ideal overarching term, chosen by Dion Fortune, is illuminism. This term signifies the extension of consciousness to planes of experience which are not available for the physical senses. And it's from this extended experience that the entire range of supernormal phenomena originates.
Illuminism.
And illuminism is then broadly subdivided into two primary branches, mysticism and occultism.
Let's define those two primary terms in more detail now. How do mysticism and occultism fundamentally differ in their aims and methods?
Okay. Mysticism aims for the speediest possible attainment of the divine union by eliminating all that causes separation from God or the absolute. A cardinal doctrine is unreality, distinguishing sharply between the fleeting phenomenal world and the eternal, real. The mystic discards the phenomenal universe to escape into the real, often preferring the unreal, meaning the world of forms, to the temporal. It's a path of direct, often intuitive union.
Direct escape, almost.
You could say that. Occultism, on the other hand, accepts the phenomenal world as actual enough, even if not real in the mystic's eternal sense. The occultist's aim is to organize and master phenomena and bring them into harmony with the eternal law of the real. They lead the mind by a graded way to clearer and clearer apprehensions of spiritual truth. Unlike the mystic's steep, direct path, the occultist's is more circuitous, a gentler incline, remaining in touch with the lower slopes of manifestation. The occultist values both the eternal and the temporal, seeking to bring the eternal into the temporal.
Working within the worlds rather than escaping it.
Exactly. The difference is primarily a matter of temperament, likened to two colonists. The mystic takes ship and goes home, escaping the problems of the colony. The occultist remains on and fights the tribes and builds roads, actively transforming the colony. Both, however, have their essential place in God's scheme, even if they appear to be knights fighting over a black and white shield, each seeing only their own side.
Given these distinctions, can you give us some examples of religions and spiritual movements that fall under each broad category?
Sure. Under the mystic path, we can broadly classify religions like Buddhism and Christianity, along with more modern movements such as Christian Science and the various New Thought and Higher Thought schools. For the occult path, examples include Hinduism and Kabbalistic Judaism, as well as derivative movements like Theosophy, alchemy, and spiritualism. It's important to note that these classifications are for clarity and not exhaustive, as many movements contain elements of both, and often resist being neatly categorized. However, their root ideas are ancient and can be traced back through history.
And within mysticism, are there further subdivisions to consider?
Yes, there are. There are nature mystics, often called pantheists, who see God immanent in nature and seek union through a return to it. This group includes ancients who used ritual and invocation to connect with natural forces, and modern figures like Walt Whitman, who represents the beauty school with no formal ritual, and Algernon Blackwood, representing the power school, who seeks to share functions through ritual.
Blackwood. Interesting connection.
Yeah. Then there are religious mystics who seek God apart from nature through direct knowing, often deprecating secondary expressions as idolatry. This school subdivides into the path of service, exemplified by groups like the Salvation Army, and the path of contemplation, such as the Carmelite Order. Christian Science, despite its unique practices, is expediently assigned to the path of service due to its focus on healing through works.
Let's turn our attention to occultism itself.
Yeah.
What are its three primary divisions, those fundamental stages or aspects of its practice?
Okay. Occultism, as distinct from mysticism, doesn't aim for immediate, direct approach to the divine. It seeks a graded way to divine union by working with forms. Its three primary divisions are: first, harmonization with cosmic law by means of right understanding. This is the theoretical groundwork.
Understanding the rules.
Right. Second, adjustment of disharmonies by means of the right use of the power that knowledge gives. This is the practical application.
Using the knowledge.
And third, purification of the soul by good works on all planes. This is the ethical foundation. The source notes that these aspects are phenomenal, not intrinsically spiritual in the highest sense, but they are indeed the first 3 steps of the stair leading to spiritual heights.
Diving deeper into the first division, right understanding, what does that theoretical side of occultism primarily entail?
This is the intellectual foundation of occultism. The primary study is cosmogony, an understanding of the creation and structure of the entire cosmos, the sphere in which the soul evolves. This involves studying both the noumenal, the underlying reality, the cosmos, and the phenomenal, the manifested universe, from both static and kinetic perspectives. A bird's-eye view of manifestation at the present stage of evolution, and a panorama of its past course and expected future. Equally vital is a detailed understanding of the nature of man, which esoteric psychology studies without separating soul and body. This includes normal, pathological, and psychic states, and their corresponding esoteric psychotherapeutic healing on subtle levels.
And from these theoretical studies, what practical applications naturally spring forth, allowing the occultist to actually do things in the subtle worlds?
2 very important practical aspects emerge: the system of correspondences and ritual magic. The system of correspondences is based on the profound doctrine that visible is but the shadow thrown by the invisible.
As above, so below.
Exactly that principle. It seeks to discover the spiritual factor that emanated a material object, recognizing that the roots of many material manifestations can be found in a single spiritual principle. This leads to knowledge of astral, mental, and spiritual affinities, forming the basis of divination, which is essentially cosmic diagnosis and prognosis, like using a stethoscope to predict consumption, but on a much grander cosmic scale. Examples include astrology, which links planetary positions to evolutionary phases and human temperament, and tarot, which links cards to cosmic and psychic forces. Ritual and symbolism are then designed to produce artificial correspondences, applying reinforced will to symbols to modify causative action.
And magic itself, white and black.
Right. Magic broadly divides into white and black. White magic aims to reinforce evolution and redemption, drawing power from above for benevolent purposes. Black magic manipulates causation for selfish ends, often drawing power from an outgrown phase of evolution by breaking down existing forms. It's considered the therapeutics of the subtle planes, but it needs rigorous ethics for hygiene and safety. Magic, like a potent drug, can achieve swift results that meditation, which is more like a steady diet, cannot. However, it's not a substitute for right understanding and strong ethics. Black magic, for example, draws power from disturbing sources like uncontrolled sex and blood rites, and through the evocation of spirits, which can be natural forces, evil imaginings, or what Dion Fortune calls the Qliphoth, which are unbalanced, fragmented forces from earlier stages of cosmic evolution, and also through certain drugs used for ill intent.
Given all this, what should students of occultism expect as a result of their training in terms of practical capabilities? What can a trained occultist actually do?
The expectation is clear. Practical application of their teachings. The source states it has no patience with the schools of occultism, which declare that they are purely ethical and speculative, implying that if they lack practical results, they might be unable to communicate secrets they don't possess.
So it should actually work.
Exactly. A trained occultist ought to be able both to perceive and to act in the invisible worlds. These practical results are divided into 2 aspects: the art of the seer, or vision, and the art of the magus, or power.
Let's delve deeper into seership. What does it encompass for a fully trained adept? Is it just seeing ghosts?
Oh, much more than that. Seership is far more than immediate psychic perception of one's physical surroundings. It includes the power to range in consciousness through both time and space, to revisit and relive past scenes. It also involves the art of producing a phantasm or astroetheric form and being able to do so at will, essentially creating a projected image or energetic double.
Projecting consciousness.
In a controlled way, yes. From this power comes the possibility of comradeship and cooperation with the dwellers in the unseen, with entities existing on other planes. A significant advantage of initiation into a long-standing fraternity is entering the comradeship of souls already working on the inner planes, unlike a solitary psychic who might be venturing unaided. The occultist refers to these as contacts, which are not quite the same as spiritualist controls. Contacts are made with orders or fraternities such as ancient juridical or medieval juromagical schools and involve the forces they concentrated through centuries of ritual.
Contacting group energies.
Right. It's like a devout Catholic praying to saints to contact the powers behind the Christian church itself. These contacts are of two main types, with the elder brethren, also known as masters, invisible helpers, star logoi, or Christs of rays, who are entities freed from the wheel of birth and death, evolving on inner planes. And then there are beings of other evolutions who are not evil, but simply different life forms, like different radio programs on the same ether. The adept can learn to alter the tuning of their mental receiving set to get the deva, nature spirit kingdom, for instance.
Now, for the other aspect, the magus, or power aspect, and the role of ceremonial magic. What is it, and what are its risks and rewards?
The work of the magus is often called ceremonial because formulas are used as tools to reinforce manual skill. While theoretically achievable by mind alone, it's practically like carving a complex statue with bare hands. It's far more effective with proper tools.
Tools make it easier.
Much. Magic, by this definition, is the use of ceremonial, from a simple mantram or spell to elaborate rituals like the Mass of the Church or Freemason ceremonies. The core of ritual magic is contacting an inner plane being to concentrate a cosmic force. The result depends entirely on whether the being is good or evil, intensifying virtues or reinforcing negative aspects. A word of power is the name of the being or force invoked, acting as a channel. Signs and symbols are symbolic movements commemorating a master's life or a cosmic principle, crystallizing into talismans like the consecrated cross. The risks are high due to the potent forces involved, and serious damage can occur if there's an accident. It's likened to a high-powered racing car. Not for everyone, but it advances knowledge and makes practical insights available even for the average devout man.
This brings us to a very vexed question in occult circles. The use of trance. There are often strong warnings against it, especially for beginners. What is the esoteric understanding of trance, and what are its true dangers?
Indeed, there are many warnings without much explanation, leading to confusion. The source highlights that many current warnings in the West stem from the introduction of Eastern methods that are unsuitable for European temperaments and conditions. Dion Fortune clearly distinguishes between two distinct types of trance. First, negative trance. Here, the operator's consciousness is put in abeyance, meaning they step aside, and another mind operates the physical vehicle via telepathic suggestion to the subconscious.
Like mediumship.
Exactly. This is open to serious abuse, but can be used without evil results in clean and careful hands, as spiritualistic experiments in controlled environments have shown. Second, positive trance. This is used extensively by every occultist. The body is left in a state of profound psychic sleep, while consciousness functions fully on inner planes. Even brief moments of vision in an initiate will show physical changes like altered respiration and pulse, fixed eyeballs, and rigid muscles, indicating the withdrawal of consciousness from the physical form. The source argues, if this is not trance, what is?
Good point.
Many condemn trance due to hearsay, but the fact remains that consciousness is withdrawn, and the body becomes unconscious for a period. Experimenting without proper conditions or experienced guidance is undoubtedly risky. An occultist must learn not only how to go out of their body, but also how to return to his body safely and fully integrate. A key danger is dissociation. If the consciousness is not fully resynthesized with the physical vehicle after leaving the body, the student can live partly on inner planes, not fully conscious of the physical environment, and mistake their own thoughts for external realities, which is highly disorganizing and can lead to mental instability.
So to sum up, what is the necessary equipment, both inner and outer, for anyone undertaking serious occult work?
The occultist must be perceptive to subtle realities, sensitive at will to register them, and have a working knowledge of ceremonial magic. The source is very clear that occult science is very much more than a system of ethics based on a belief in superphysical planes of existence, the masters, and reincarnation. It demands specific, developed practical abilities, a keen intellect, and strong self-control.
All right, let's explore the deep headwaters of occult science. Where do occultists look for its ultimate source, its classics, and when was its golden age? And why do they look to the remote past for this wisdom?
Right, the origins. Occultists look to the remote past because the nearer the source, the purer the stream. This wisdom is not merely the result of experimental research built up over generations. It is, in large part, a revelation received from sources other than those to which humanity normally has access.
A revelation?
Yes. This gift was brought by the elder brethren, highly evolved beings. It represents the garnered fruits of previous evolutions, the pioneer work of those who have gone on ahead of evolution, and knowledge brought down from planes human consciousness cannot normally contact. This fundamental archetypal knowledge was then elaborated and adapted to different ages and races by humanity over millennia.
So it's a divine gift adapted and applied by humanity over time. How does this force manifest on the planes of form, and what role do the Christs of the rays and seed bearers play in this process of evolution?
Well, for any force to manifest, it needs a form. The Christ within functions through individual love, but the larger Christ force requires a group realization to function through the collective group mind. This leads to the concept of the Christs of the rays and seed bearers. The cosmic clock for this purpose is the precession of the equinoxes, with each ray working out a specific phase of evolution and recapitulating its predecessors. Seed bearers are entities from previous evolutions who bring fruits of previous evolutions to expedite the current task. They're also known as culture gods, or priest-temperers, perfected souls who plant archetypal ideas and specific faculties into the group soul of an evolving race.
Planting ideas into the collective.
Exactly. The star logos, or Christ of the Ray, essentially incarnates at the nadir of material evolution, the point furthest from the divine, to bring a new law or archetypal pattern. They are both perfect God and perfect man. These Christs manifest on the physical plane during corresponding subcycles of human history. For example, Manu Narada, a lord of mind, founded a temple in Atlantis for the Atlanteans as they were developing their conscious mind. Manu Melchizedek, a lord of flame and mind, brought archetypal ideas to our current root race, and the highest initiates traced their spiritual lineage to his order. Alcohol, interestingly, was seen as the Western equivalent of soma in certain ancient contexts, helping the brain respond to abstract mentation for our root race, just as endocrine glands will be key for the next phase of human evolution.
That's a huge claim. How can such statements, especially about past evolutions and divine entities, be verified for rational consciousness, given how abstract they are?
Well, the evidence, Dion Fortune explains, is primarily based on the law of correspondences. As above, so below. What is true of the microcosm man is also true of the macrocosm, the universe. If a psychic's findings don't fit into the larger cosmic system, they cannot be considered accurate or reliable. A psychic without true initiation is at a grave disadvantage, unable to compare their individual perceptions with the Great Pyramid of cosmic law, which provides the universal framework.
It needs the bigger context.
Absolutely. There are no exceptions in cosmic law, and the metaphysics of different occult schools don't vary when pure and untainted by individual interpretations. The scheme presented in Dion Fortune's work, though from the Western tradition, aligns remarkably with Madame Blavatsky's scheme from the Eastern tradition, which is considered a powerful testament to their underlying consistency.
Let's talk about the esoteric Christian tradition. How does it fit into this broader understanding of the mysteries? Many might assume Christianity is entirely exoteric, not hidden.
Right, that's a common view. The different pantheons, Egyptian, Greek, or Christian, are essentially symbol systems enshrining abstract truths, ways for humanity to relate to divine principles. Christianity, in particular, is described as a very abstract system, needing highly developed spiritual intuition to grasp its deepest meanings. Its founders, like St. Paul and St. John, are considered initiates, and their work shows the clear influence of their mystery training. Paul, for instance, explicitly distinguished between open teachings for the multitude and hinted teachings for the initiated. The Gnostic schools, which flourished in early Christianity, were essentially the Christian mysteries, established by converts from other mystery schools who sought to integrate Christ's teachings into a deeper esoteric framework. Yes. However, the non-initiates eventually gained sway in early Christianity, leading to the persecution of the mysteries of Jesus. Orthodoxy then developed its own mystery system in the sacraments, which were described as ritual magic, pure and simple in their efficacy. The problem, however, was that the metaphysical interpretation of these sacraments was lost. Superstition has been defined as the use of a form whose significance has been forgotten.
Using the ritual without knowing why.
Exactly. This created an unbridged gulf in modern Christianity between its deep spiritual truths and its symbolic ceremonial, making it difficult for the intellect to grasp its profound meaning. Modern mystery schools have tried to bridge this, often by re-illuminating their fires at Eastern altars, sometimes leading followers to change religions entirely. The Western bridge, Dion Fortune suggests, is to express Christ's teachings in the metaphysical language of the mysteries, drawing inspiration from Greek and Kabbalistic traditions with which Christ was himself familiar. This allows Christianity to become a true wisdom religion, appealing to the intellect as well as the heart. Occultism, in this view, is the servant of religion, manipulating the human mind to bring spiritual influences into otherwise unapproachable dark places. The highest initiation in Western mysticism is crucifixion for the salvation of mankind, the vicarious abreacting of racial karma. This requires great love for humanity and a willingness to sacrifice for the sins of the people, with the ultimate goal being the ability to offer an acceptable sacrifice for the collective good.
A heavy burden.
Immense. Historically, there have been attempts to develop this esoteric Christianity. The Grail Round Table legends rooted in Druidical tradition, the Knights Templar drawing on Israel's secret tradition, and the Fama Fraternitatis from the alchemical tradition.
Now let's look at what the source calls the fundamental alphabet of the mysteries. What does that entail, and how does it help initiates navigate these complex realms?
Okay, the alphabet. All esoteric systems, regardless of their cultural origin, use a symbolic method of notation. Each symbol represents a spiritual potency, and their interrelation shows how forces interact within the cosmos and within human consciousness. A key to one symbol system allows you to equate it with others, as they are fundamentally mapping the same universal principles. For example, pantheon gods and goddesses, with the exception of the sacrificed god, who represents the initiate soul and the great initiator, represent nature forces and spiritual principles, translatable across different planes of manifestation. These equate to mundane chakras, points on the physical plane where the unseen and seen connect. This includes the zodiac, planets, elements, and celestial hierarchy knowledge carefully guarded by the mysteries.
Cosmic symbols.
Yes. These cosmic symbols are further represented by the letters of a sacred language, which in the Western tradition is Hebrew. These letters form sacred names and words of power, which are not just words, but algebraical formulas resuming potencies, meaning they are concise expressions of energetic forces. This system allows the initiate to trace correlations and see how invisible realities cast shadows on the world of illusion. Rituals are built on this symbolic foundation, and divinatory systems, which are forms of cosmic diagnosis and prognosis, distinct from mere fortune-telling, reveal movements of invisible forces and their likely outcomes.
How does one distinguish between a true adept, who can work directly with these forces, and a mere magician, who might rely on intermediaries or less direct methods?
Dion Fortune makes a very clear distinction here. The psychic functions negatively. They react to conditions, perceiving subtle energies but exerting little conscious influence. The adept, on the other hand, perceives but doesn't react. They function positively, sending their influence and will directly.
Active versus passive.
Exactly. The magician, in contrast, knows how to influence subtle worlds through formulas and rituals, but often cannot perceive them directly, so they rely on evoked spirits or established intermediaries. The true adept is not dependent on spirits, but works directly on the plane of their choice, wielding direct spiritual power. The chief risks of occultism, in fact, lie in evocation and banishment without sufficient understanding, highlighting the magician's more precarious position compared to the adept.
Beyond the core occult studies, what other essential sciences and subjects are crucial for the student to master to truly understand and apply this knowledge?
First and foremost is psychology, particularly analytical schools like Jungian psychology, as well as the study of hypnosis and hypernormal states. A thorough knowledge of human consciousness, its ego, and its manifestation levels is vital. Spiritualists and Catholic mystics, surprisingly, offer much insight here from their experiential knowledge. Then, a comparative study of religions and mystical traditions reveals how natural laws operate in occultism across different cultures. A working knowledge of anthropology, archaeology, and folklore is valuable for understanding ancient cultures and their practices, as is physiology for the mind-body link. Modern physics, with its insights into the etheric substratum of reality, is also of special interest.
Physics, too.
Yes. Finally, traditional philosophy and comparative religion are essential for intellectual grounding. The purpose of all this interdisciplinary study is to approach the chosen subject in a scientific spirit and produce results worthy of serious consideration, moving beyond mere belief to demonstrable understanding.
So it's a truly interdisciplinary approach to understanding reality. Let's move into the practical training aspects, beginning with the mind. The old grimoires describe elaborate magical instruments like wands and swords. Is their power truly in the material object itself?
Ah, the magical tools. The source corrects what it calls a materialistic concept. The virtue isn't inherently in the material preparation of the instrument, but in the etheric counterpart of the article, its subtle energetic double, and the specific condition produced in it. An instrument is first magnetized by the operator's personal magnetism. Then, an aura of concentrated thought forms is built around it through visualization and focused intention. Finally, through the imagination and will, it becomes the physical vehicle for an invisible, concentrated cosmic force.
So the mind powers the tool.
Exactly. The key insight is that the essence of all practical operations is mental. Therefore, a large part of an initiate's training is developing the latent aspects of their mind, as conscious use of these subtle powers is not widespread in ordinary consciousness.
Dion Fortune discusses the mind under 3 heads: feeling, will, and reason. How does the Kabbalistic view illuminate their interrelation and how they lead to occult power?
Right, the Kabbalistic view. In these terms, feeling and reason exist in polarity, like 2 opposing forces. The kinetic will, the will in action, results from their active union, but for this trinity to become functional and manifest, it must be resumed in a 4th principle upon another plane. For a lower plane, this is the physical body, expressing through instinct and physical action. For a higher plane, it's the little understood faculty of imagination, not just as fantasy, but as the creative image-making power of the mind.
Imagination is the key.
It's the synthesizer. It is from the synthesis on a higher plane, and from this alone that true occult power issues forth. This complex process of dissecting, purifying, concentrating, and then resynthesizing these factors on a higher arc is what is truly meant by the ancient alchemical process, the great work.
That's a profound redefinition of alchemy, taking it beyond just turning lead into gold. What about the purification of the mind? How does one achieve that, especially from negative emotions or thought patterns?
Dirt, in this esoteric context, is simply misplaced matter. Purification is about returning things to their proper place and function. For example, if emotion intrudes into intellectual processes, it contaminates and falsifies them, leading to biased reasoning. Therefore, you must acquire conscious control of emotions.
Control, not repression.
Exactly. This isn't repression where you suppress feelings, but sublimation, redirecting the force from a stimulus so it discharges harmlessly and constructively on another plane. For instance, resentment is transmuted into compassion and has its issue in charity. This is described as the first and hardest lesson on the path, but once mastered, the momentum of the path is cumulative, meaning progress accelerates.
And the training of the will. Can someone who considers themselves weak-willed succeed on this path, or is it only for those with naturally strong resolve?
Well, the will is not a separate organ, but the power to concentrate the available energies of the individual. A strong will is actually a single-pointed will, the ability to focus intensely on one thing, as seen, for example, in a drunkard's tenacity for alcohol, however misdirected.
Focus is the key.
Exactly. The secret, then, is to concentrate on a single object by consciously eliminating all competing interests. This is why sacrifice is said to be the first step in the mysteries, meaning the focused letting go of distractions. While this might seem to lead to imbalance, the initiate employs the principle of rhythm, like a bow that must be tight-strung to give flight to an arrow, but unstrung when not in use to maintain its resilience. The bow's object is to be bent, so the cord is never truly cast away, but used and then rested.
That brings us to the discipline itself. How strict is it on the path, especially in its earlier stages?
In earlier stages, the discipline is described as exceedingly strict, with immediate and severe punishment for deviations from cosmic law. It's described as a way as narrow as the blade of a sword.
Wow, intense.
It is. This discipline isn't humanly meted out. It's the inevitable reaction of the forces set in motion by one's own thoughts and actions, karma at play. After this initial rigorous section, the way opens and the initiate can safely reclaim things previously sacrificed, but always as master of them, never becoming obsessed or controlled by them again. This coterie of freedom is essential, the bringing away of attachments to gain true liberty. The trained initiate can clear the decks for action at the word of command and bull rush through obstacles with concentrated will. Occultism occurs when the will directs cosmic forces using knowledge of subtler planes, but these forces must obey cosmite law or they will crush the magician. The white magician serves the hierarchy, while the neophyte focuses their will primarily on self-mastery.
You also touched on the oft-debated question of intellectual qualifications. Is sheer devotion or pure intention enough, or is intellectual capacity truly essential for esoteric work?
Intellectual capacity is essential upon the occult path. It's useless to attempt it without, just as it would be useless to attempt a university career without the necessary mental aptitude. The initiate's mind needs to be well-trained in the discipline of logic and philosophy, otherwise they will mistake the appearance for the reality, getting lost in illusions. Dion Fortune explains that the 7 subtle bodies of man are different modes of consciousness and different types of organization of force. The key challenge is confusing the planes, meaning thinking in terms of one plane when functioning on another, which often leads to anthropomorphic concepts of God or spiritual beings. Mental discipline rigorously guards against this.
Mixing levels of reality.
Yeah, it causes problems. Thought control is also crucial to prevent consciousness flowing over or becoming uncontrolled. For instance, if you're out of the body on the astral plane and your thoughts wander from Egyptian magic to Atlantean, you'd metaphorically change continents and centuries instantly. Concentration exercises are vital. No one is capable of the deepest occult meditation who cannot meditate in a railway station, meaning the ability to withdraw attention from distracting environments at will.
Tuning out the noise.
Exactly. This involves both withdrawing from the physical environment and keeping count of time to return at will. A lack of time sense is dangerous and disorganizing, potentially leading to dissociation where the student lives partly on inner planes, mistaking their own thoughts for external realities.
Finally, the fourth element in mind training, imagination. How does it fit into this synthesis of feeling, will, and reason?
Imagination is the image-making faculty of the mind, responsible for creating astral matrices or energetic blueprints. If feeling, will, and reason have been properly purified and concentrated, their synthesis on a higher level occurs through the imagination. The crucial point is to build these thought forms according to cosmic law, as deviating from this makes them either dangerous or useless. This is why a thorough knowledge of esoteric cosmology is vital. When attempting this work, the individual effectively joins the ranks of building spirits, and the line between the Benilahim, sons of God, and the fallen angels, those who miscreate, is said to be narrow.
A fine line indeed.
It is. The Adept's equipment is pretty extensive, requiring natural capacity, rigorous discipline, and hard and continuous work, often abandoning all else except minimal support. The reward, however, is immense. The knowledge of work well done and secrets wrested from nature to enrich mankind.
Now let's shift our focus to the training of the physical body. Since occult operations must ultimately manifest on the physical plane, how is the physical vehicle prepared and utilized in this work?
Right, the body. It's critical, even if just for recollection and brain consciousness after an experience on inner planes. Dion Fortune stresses that the practices of the ancients are reliable guides, unlike many modern psychics whose methods are often based on hypersensitive caprice. The link between mind and matter is found in the etheric subplanes of existence. These aren't separate dimensions, but denser subplanes of the physical. 3 are known to modern science: heat, light, and electricity. But the fourth, still largely unknown, is the akasha, or astral light, which is described as the point of contact of mind with matter and the raw material of magic.
Akasha, the subtle stuff.
Exactly. Akasha is the subtle medium that can be molded by emotions and influences other ethers, which then influence dense matter. It's the Jacob's ladder, by which initiates communicate between mind and matter. When an occultist works on the physical plane, they're primarily working with this etheric body, the energetic double of the physical form. Material objects are used for their etheric element. Crystals and pure metals, for instance, have the largest proportion of etheric substance in inanimate nature, making them ideal for charms and amulets. This aligns with practical knowledge, as electricians use pure metals and crystals in circuits due to their sensitivity to subtle etheric vibrations.
So the physical body itself needs specific refinement. How does the occultist prepare their physical body to be an effective vehicle for these subtle forces?
The body must be refined in a metallurgist sense, meaning purified and made capable of precise transmission, not simply thin or ethereal like a conventional saint. It also needs strength and toughness to endure the exceptional forces it transmits. An adept is not frail. They are capable of great physical endurance and are exceedingly tenacious of life, as exemplified by the notorious Rasputin.
Touch for.
Yes. The brain, for an occultist, is the organ of motor coordination and sensation, but the true vehicles of mind are the 7 chakras, or endocrines, the glands that control many bodily functions. These glands pour secretions into the bloodstream, making blood the essence of the man and a direct vehicle of consciousness. Altering blood alters consciousness, as seen in anesthesia or some forms of insanity. Therefore, an occultist requires an absolutely pure bloodstream to avoid distorting consciousness and subtle perceptions. Constipation, for instance, is cited as a frequent cause of obsession, as impure blood affects consciousness and contacts corresponding astral aspects, leading to mental disturbance. Calomel, an old purgative, is even described as a simple exorcist in such cases.
Wow, physical purity affects psychic purity.
Directly. Any abnormal or diseased generative organs or significant bony deformities also make practical occult work risky, though accidental injuries are not a detriment. Tall and powerfully built men are preferred for some rituals as they can channel more force. And critically, you should never attempt practical occultism when exhausted or feverish, as these states lead to a loss of grip on subtle forces or unpleasant low-level psychism and delirium.
That's a very clear, practical guide on bodily preparation. What about the controversial topic of diet in occult circles? Is there a prescribed way of eating?
Diet is indeed a vexed one, as Fortune puts it. From a purely practical occult standpoint, the first requisite is a sane mind and a sound body, and whatever diet achieves that is satisfactory for the individual. However, the presence of food in the stomach hinders subtle plane work, so no food for at least 2 hours before any practical work is advised. The Eastern tradition often inculcates strict vegetarianism to increase nervous system sensitiveness, but the source warns that this unfits for the rush and drive of urban life in the West and can lead to neurasthenia, nervous stability, without the seclusion that often accompanies Eastern practice.
So context matters.
Hugely. The Western tradition, which relies more on ceremonial to concentrate forces, does not generally inculcate strict vegetarianism. It is fatal to mix them, as a person sensitized by an Eastern diet would be completely bowled over by the potent forces evoked in Western ceremonial. The key is to find the diet that optimizes your personal energetic balance for the work.
And what about meditation posture, or asana, as it's known in Eastern traditions? Is it as rigidly defined as some suggest?
While Eastern postures are often impossible or uncomfortable for Westerners, posture is still important. The body is seen as an electric battery that needs to be a closed circuit during meditation to contain and circulate energy. A symmetrical, poised balance is key, with a straight spine, feet together, and hands join or touching. Crossing the legs is considered undesirable because it's unsymmetrical and breaks the energetic circuit.
Keep the circuit closed.
Right. The best positions are flat on the back, the dead's position, or sitting bolt upright like Egyptian gods and statues, ensuring stability and preventing a fall should a deep trance state be achieved. Insecurity in posture can prevent the deepening of consciousness.
The source also briefly mentions rhythmic breath. Is this something a beginner can experiment with?
Rhythmic breath. It's very important and very potent, but it cannot safely be practiced save under the personal guidance of an experienced instructor.
Definitely needs guidance.
Absolutely. This is because it directly affects magnetic currents in the etheric double and chakras, and ignorant or unsupervised use can throw the delicate endocrine system out of gear, leading to serious physical or psychological issues. It's a powerful tool that requires careful supervision.
Beyond personal discipline, the source emphasizes the observation of times and seasons. Why is this so crucial in occult work, and what does it entail?
It's far from a vain observance. There are definite tides in the unseen that can be either for or against an operation, affecting its ease and efficacy. Invisible intelligences who are vehicles of cosmic forces change guard at certain times. The hours of the day, phases of the moon, seasons, and planetary positions are all important factors the occultist considers. This is part of the occultist's technique, submitting to the conditions of the physical plane to work effectively with the subtle. These are etheric tides, the ebb and flow of the Earth's aura, which are constantly changing due to multiple interlocking cycles and affect different operations differently. The deeper you go into practical work, the more influence these subtle factors exert.
And how about the influence of places? Does location matter for occult work?
Oh yes, places exercise an important influence. Certain spots on Earth are naturally highly magnetic, often discovered and developed by the ancients. Their influence depends on their historical use, whether for initiations and spiritual development, or for evocatory rites involving blood sacrifice and negative forces. Occultists either use already magnetized places or magnetize them for themselves, which takes considerable time and work to cultivate the astral atmosphere of a space. A single ritual is insufficient. It requires steady, consistent work for months to truly embed the desired energetic quality.
It needs dedication to prepare a space.
It does. It's also considered undesirable to use such a magnetized spot for other mundane purposes, as it disturbs the accumulated magnetism.
And color. Is there a best color for occult work, or does it vary?
There isn't a single best color, no. Color has considerable influence upon the state of consciousness and acts as a means to bring force from the etheric to the physical plane. Different colors are used for different forces or intentions. Each person, according to their ray type or individual energetic makeup, will find a particular color best for private meditation, and this should be used in the decoration of their sanctuary or shrine to enhance their connection.
Given all these requirements, it sounds like having a dedicated room for deep occult work is absolutely essential.
It is absolutely essential to have a room set apart, inaccessible to others, where the psychic atmosphere can be cultivated and maintained purely. The source draws analogies to bacteriology and electricity, noting that principles like insulation and magnetism, infection and inoculation apply equally on subtle planes in magical operations.
Like a clean room for science.
Precisely. You wouldn't perform delicate surgery in a public space or manage high voltage without proper insulation, and the same careful conditions apply to working with subtle forces.
Let's touch on a highly vexed question that often comes up. Initiation and celibacy. What's the esoteric perspective on this often misunderstood topic?
Ah, yes, this one. It's a complex topic, with its deepest aspects carefully guarded due to their profound implications. From a practical standpoint for the seeker, experience shows that neither extreme sexual tension from repression nor constant repletion affords satisfactory conditions for practical occultism, leading either to nervous tension or a lack of etheric force needed for the work. The ideal is a harmonious mating where partners cooperate in the great work and align their energies. Continence is advised for 3 days to a month before important operations to conserve and focus vital force. Divorce, from an occult perspective, is very unsatisfactory as it rouses the antagonism of the group mind, disrupting the energetic harmony of the collective, making group work difficult. Mystery schools, except those given to phallic or black magic rites, generally refuse admission to sexually abnormal individuals.
Interesting exclusion.
Yes. The question of virginity is curious and complex. Occultly, only those are virgin who have not known desire, implying a state of pure, untainted consciousness. While a virgin soul is considered best for passive psychism, like an oracle, Dion Fortune states that only the soul which has come to its full stature and known all the sacraments of nature will ever take the supreme degrees. Finally, pregnant women are generally undesirable and ceremonial after quickening, as the unborn child can be a very ready channel of evocation, with invoked forces manifesting through it, potentially resulting in a changeling or a peculiar and highly sensitized nervous constitution for the child.
Wow, that's quite specific.
It is. The source concludes with a stark warning. Occultism is very far from being foolproof, and many experimenters depend for their safety solely upon their inefficiency. It's not for the unprepared or the foolhardy.
That's a truly sobering caution that underscores the seriousness of this work. Finally, let's bring it all together by looking at the Western esoteric systems in depth, their roots, how they've evolved, and why they remain relevant today.
Okay, the big picture. The Western esoteric systems stem primarily from 3 main roots: Kabbalistic, Egyptian, and Greek. Modern derivatives all trace back to these ancient traditions. Each system developed for a special phase of human evolution, perfecting some aspects of human consciousness while neglecting others. The Greek system is typically philosophical, with a pantheon of gods and goddesses incarnating natural forces and abstract ideas. The Egyptian is deeply initiatory, with animal-headed gods representing forces brought to human consciousness through direct experience and ritual. The Kabbalistic, on the other hand, is distinctly magical, strictly monotheistic, with the magus, or human operator, playing a central role in channeling divine power, almost replacing the god as the active agent.
Different focuses.
Very different. These systems mutually influenced each other over centuries, and modern Western esotericism blends them, along with Eastern sources mediated by movements like Theosophy, which introduced terms like karma, chakras, and manas into Western understanding. Analytical psychology and New Thought have also contributed, resulting in what can seem like a kaleidoscopic philosophy. In practical occultism, it's considered essential to return to the original rootstocks because they have an organized aura of thought forms built by centuries of concentrated meditation and ritual, providing traditional corridors to the inner planes that are otherwise difficult to access without that established energetic pathway.
Need those established connections.
Right. Dion Fortune argues that certain planes of consciousness worked by past mystery schools are not easily accessible today due to humanity's evolving consciousness, but the occultist needs access to the full range of the planes for comprehensive work. While modern methods, like some aspects of New Thought, might produce purely subjective results without traditional contacts, only ancient systems are believed to genuinely contact nature forces, elemental and angelic kingdoms, and the Earth Soul, which belonged to an earlier epoch of development for civilized races.
Why contact those archaic levels?
Because nothing God has created is unclean. These foundational stages form the necessary basis for all higher developments and are reservoirs of elemental forces, fountainheads of genius, vitality, and raw energy. Psychoanalysts tap them to free inhibitions. Occultists tap them to increase psychic powers, making what is normal in its raw state into something supernormal in its cultivated form. There is an unbroken tradition of initiation in Europe from ancient mysteries, though documentary proof is scanty and often comes in fragmented forms. However, the subjective experience of seeing an initiated adept at work is considered by practitioners to be the most valid evidence of this reality. An occult school needs contact to this traditional source of energy, like touching an electric battery. Otherwise, it's merely an electrical installation which is not connected up with the powerhouse, generating no real force.
Needs the power source.
Absolutely. The ultimate evidence of initiation's reality is the state of the personality, charged full of power and an exceedingly potent form of vitality. But this power must be rightly handled and kept in the cosmic circuit, or it leads to destruction of the vehicle. The critical point distinguishing the right and the left-hand paths is whether the adept is in circuit with benevolent cosmic flow, or earthing, misdirecting, or abusing power for self-destruction.
What an incredible deep dive. We've journeyed from understanding the subtle energies within our minds to exploring the intricate historical tapestry of esoteric traditions, revealing a systematic, disciplined path to understanding hidden knowledge and unlocking deeper human potential. It's a profound blend of ancient wisdom and surprisingly modern insights, with truly significant implications for how we view our lives and our place in the cosmos. Really quite something.
It is. This knowledge, far from being just for a select few or an academic curiosity, is presented as a wellspring available to all who genuinely seek it with sincerity. But as we've explored, it demands dedication, discipline, and a willingness to transcend conventional thinking and perceived limitations. It's not an easy path, necessarily. Ultimately, understanding the universe in this profound way, as Dion Fortune reveals, leads to a deeper, more accurate understanding of oneself and one's profound, interconnected place within the greater cosmic plan.
So as you go about your day, perhaps ponder this. What if the hidden aspects of reality are not only knowable, but are absolutely essential for humanity's true evolution? And what small, conscious step could you take today to begin correlating your own vehicles of consciousness? Perhaps by simply pausing to place a metaphorical chair at the fireside and lay a place at table for the unseen guest in your own life. The journey, it seems, truly begins within, and it's open to all who are ready to look.